Okay, there's something on the chat for me? Okay, fine. Somebody will be back in. So what happens here? These people are known in agile communities as I-shaped people since, like the letter I, they have depth but not much breadth. By contrast, T-shaped people supplement their expertise in one area with supporting but less developed skill in associated areas. Okay, so these will be more useful on agile teams. Okay. Team structured, we have talked about cross-functional, we have talked about dedicated. Okay, so I'm not going to focus on that. Team workspaces, scales and commons also we talked about. Now this is one interesting topic, overcoming silos. What we will do is, rather than starting on a new topic, let us take a break here. I'm stopping the so we have completed agile life cycle yesterday itself, and I'm not going to go through it again. I'm just going to touch the points. Retrospectives. What is a retrospective? That's a meeting held by the team at the end of the iteration to discuss what happened in the iteration that is just closed. What went well, what did not go well, what can be improved, what were the mistakes. Analyze that so that the upcoming iteration can be improved. Backlog preparation, refining the stories, getting the stories ready. So backlog refinement, I'm sorry, backlog preparation is ordering the stories, and backlog refinement is getting the stories ready. Daily stand-ups. We talked about that yesterday, so you might want to read in detail. Demo or review that happens on the last day of the iteration. The customer, that is PO, the team and the facilitator sit together and check the work that is completed by the team. Planning for iteration based agile. What is the work that you are going to take up for upcoming iteration? It depends on the size of the work, it depends on the dependencies, it depends on the resource availability, it will depend on any holidays if they are there in upcoming weeks. So plan, check everything and plan the work in upcoming iteration. Execution practices that help teams deliver value. Now, if I want to comment on this, I would personally say that this is applicable to any life cycle. Continuous integration. The teams are working on different deliverables, various deliverables. At the end of it, all those deliverables need to be unified, need to be working together as one single piece. So if you try testing whether everything is integrated fine or not, at the end of the project, 9 out of 10, it will not work. So integration needs to be tested continuously. As soon as you can, you should be testing integration so that you are sure that the whole thing, whole project is going on in right direction. Test at all levels. Don't test only finished product. See, in finished product, whatever testing you do is reactive. So if you need to make changes, there is going to be scrap generated. Quality will be poor. There will be rework. So cost will go up. So rather than that, yes, some testing you will need to do once the work is completed, but test continuously so that you will realize if there are any problems earlier, and if at all there is rework, the amount of rework will be small. So scrap cost will be less. The two approaches here, ATDD or TDD and BDD, it's typically teams' choices actually, but I'm going to talk about that in one single sentence because that's not what is basically part of what is agile. More about technical, but yes, TDD and BDD are more preferred by non software teams. So, what is acceptance test driven development? The title itself suggests, indicates what it is. You have definition of that. Say there are 10 things there. What does your team understand? Whatever story you are working on should pass all those 10 criteria. So they will focus on those 10 criteria and ensure that the work passes those 10 criteria. So their work is acceptance test driven development. On the other hand, non software projects consider how to test drive the team designs. Hardware and mechanical projects often use TDD and BDD. So they are not about only definition of done. See, a particular work that they are doing is supposed to function in a particular way. For example, they are developing a room sweeping robot, like Roomba. What does that what is that Roomba supposed to do? It is supposed to clean the room. So that is the behavior they will focus on. It needs to pass all those tests. Let's say the tests are, it should be of so much height and it should be of so much weight and all the components should fit in together. There are 100 things. All of them they will try to meet, but their focus will be on what is the functionality. That functionality, behavior needs to be delivered well. So in such cases, more than ATDD, BDD or behavior driven development will be the focus. Spikes. Did we talk about spikes, Vishali?
Yeah, we just touched base on the spike part.
Spike is a meeting event
Yeah.
called together by the team to discuss a team problem. Typically, Spike, usually the time box for Spike is 2 hours. That is
Yes.
not very hard binding. Any teams can decide upfront that for our size, spikes can be 30 minutes because our project is very small. There's no point spending 2 hours. Okay. Now, what we are going to look at is, just give me a few seconds. We are going to look at pain points on projects that can happen and what are the troubleshooting possibilities. Do you realize that this can be important from examinations perspective? Situational questions, when you definitely going to get questions on pain points. I'm not saying you will get multiple questions necessarily, but one or two questions at least you will get on this table. Ideal candidate for developing situations and ready-made solutions are there. Abhijit, what is that?
So,
Ab-
what was the use of spike? I didn't understand. What is the use of it? It is 2 hours. I got it. Discussion.
okay.
When
When
is it?
a particular team member faces any problem, it can be a technical problem, it can be a logical problem, it can be something that a team member has not understood clearly, it can be risk identification, risk management problem, any problem. Fine. The team member is facing, I'm facing a problem, I'm not able to resolve this problem. So I need to call other team members to help me. All the team will come here. Iteration size is 10 working days. And if my team spends one full day on solving my problem, that is going to be expensive for the team. So team will not do that. What the team will do, let us come together. Your problem size looks like all of us will maximum take 2 hours. So let's take a spike here. All of us together will work in the direction of solution. We will not wait, like let's say in about 30 minutes time also, if we can find the direction in which the solution lies, we'll call off the spike. Spike doesn't have to complete 2 hours. Spike will be maximum for 2 hours. Now, if the problem is small, very small, which I also know that somebody helps me and we will be able to solve in half an hour, I'll be pairing. I'll be asking one team member to help me. A little larger problem will be solved by swarming. Rather than 2 hours, the team sits for 4 hours. A very big problem, something like the entire work that we are doing is not feasible. For entire team needs to sit for longer time, think about it, and come to conclusion. Because one of the things or one of the ideas in agile, if you have to fail, fail fast. So that lot of time and material is saved. So that is the decision the team is taking. So they might decide that let us spend 8 hours, one full day on it. They are mobbing. So basically, mobbing, swarming, pairing, spiking, the difference is only in terms of the time box.
Thank you.
So the first pain point is unclear purpose or mission for the team. So team doesn't know why we are working, what seems to be wrong. Agile charter is not ready. The team doesn't understand the vision. That means the charter is not done. Either the charter is not done or the facilitator didn't worry enough about explaining the charter to the team. Charter, by the way, doesn't have to be a formal document. If the team says we have got the point, let's not document it, that's perfectly fine. They have to decide together, facilitator and the team. Do we want it formally made or do we just want it and as an agreement amongst ourselves? It can be anything. Agile chartering for purpose, vision, mission, and mission test. That is what is missing. That is the uh, action that you might have to take. Unclear working agreements for the team. Team doesn't know who's working at what time. What are the holidays? What are the what is the work that team A will be doing, team B will be doing? Again, charter. We talked about charter. We discussed that the team decides the working agreement. So charter, agile chartering for alignment, values, principles, and working agreements. That's what you have to focus on. Unclear team context. This is typically talking about which work will be picked up by team A, which work will be carried out by team B. Team doesn't know. Team A says, we don't know. Team B should be doing this work. Team B says, no, no, A should be doing this work. That kind of a conflict will always be there when you have a large team or when you have teams in different cities or different time zones. Because they're really not clear. It's not that they're avoiding work, they're not clear. So again, Agile Charter is the solution. Agile chartering for context boundaries, committed assets, and prospective analysis. So, team is not clear about who will pick up what work, context boundaries, who will use what assets. Laptops are there. Who will use which laptops? Who will use what hardware? Or any machines are there? Who will be needing what type of hardware? It's not clear. Unclear requirements. The team doesn't understand the work. If the team doesn't understand the work, the team really needs to have a good clarity about purpose, vision, mission that's there. But if the team fails to understand, there's one more thing that the facilitator has to see. I've not checked the description, I'm just telling you my perspective. Perhaps the seniors, like sponsors and all, need to intervene here and explain to the team why the project is getting carried out. So that will do two things. Executive involvement is also very clearly seen, and the purpose becomes clear. So, for purpose clarity, it's a good idea for a facilitator to involve seniors. It will hold good for all the 4 points that we have talked about. Let's see, help sponsors and stakeholders craft a product vision. So if the sponsor is not very articulate, very senior people typically say writing that all down and describing it so that these youngsters, team members can understand. I don't want to waste my time. So many times project managers, scrum masters, facilitators will do it. So help your sponsors to craft a product vision. Consider building a product roadmap. It's a very good idea. Using specification by example, user story mapping, and impact mapping. So the team knows that finally what we are going to develop is we are going to develop a fleet of uh, driverless cars. We are a cargo company. We want to own we have a big fleet. We deliver uh, anything from one place to other place. What we are seeing is by the day it is becoming more expensive to have people manage this work. So we want to do it automated. So automated, autonomous vehicles is what we are planning to have. Autonomous vehicles, it's not something that we can do in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months time. More likely than not, it will take about 2.5 years. We have to think about how the vehicle will read the signals, how the vehicle will read the speed limits, how the vehicle will read the maps, picking up from one point, delivering at one point, so on and so forth. So, how are we going to develop? At what stage, which feature we are going to develop? Let us just assume that in the first year, we want to develop the signal system, a signal reading system. So my vehicle should have camera, they should be able to read the signal, they should be able to translate the signal. That's the only work that we are going to do in year one. In year two, we will see how the vehicles know to change the lane at right time and read the speed limits and uh, read the maps. In the third year, maybe one more point. Okay, you get my point. So this is what is the roadmap. This is how we are going to work. Now my team knows that right now we don't have to think about how the vehicle will change the lanes. Right now we are thinking about how to read the signals. So developing a roadmap, especially for larger products, is a really good idea. Bring the team and the PO together. Yes, this is what perhaps unclear requirements on our no, see, these are the products I was talking about. The products are such like we are developing a totally new things. Most of our products, in fact, are repeat kind of products. Most of our projects are also repeat kind of projects with different customers. SAP implementation with company 1, SAP implementation with company 2, 3, 4, 5. So in such cases, the problem will not be as big as getting the sponsor and everyone that will be in place. More likely than not, the problem is PO has not explained clearly. That's why the team is not clear. So help the PO explain everything so that the team gets clarity. Bring the team and PO together to clarify the expectations. Progressively decompose the roadmap. Once we have a 3-year roadmap, one thing is there that the team gets good idea, but on the other hand, the team gets overwhelmed also. How are we going to complete all of that? So rather than detailing out, see, high level roadmap should be ready so that the team gets good idea, but don't get into detailing out. Just let the roadmap be at the high level and the current portion of the roadmap decompose it in the detail so the team understands the current work in detail. They also get the perspective for the entire product. Poor user experience. User experience design practices included in the development team involve users early and often. Okay, does that sentence actually mean anything for you? It doesn't mean anything for me either. Okay, what does it? So this is something, these tables I've taken from APG typically so that you will look at it from questions perspective. So some of the explanations given by PMI are in their trademark cryptic style. Try reading PMBOK and you will realize what I'm saying. I many times say that PMBOK is not written in human English. It's written in some alien English. So this is the example of that. What it is saying is your product is going to be used by people. So you have to think about what experience they get when they are using your product. If you want them to have a better experience so that you have better customers, your product speaks for itself, you get better reputation. If you want that, talk to users, ask them what you want, involve them early and often. Okay, I'll give you one example of how user experience decides course of action for a user. I use HP Spectre laptop. This laptop that I'm using right now is HP Spectre. Anyone here who has used HP Spectre? Okay, if you are not, I'd recommend please do it. This otherwise, if you talk about the screen, if you talk about the keyboard, it's a good laptop. What happened is this is the first HP laptop I got. I purchased it, I don't know why, but from Amazon. So it came in a big box. I opened the box. I'm looking at the laptop for 20 minutes just to understand how do I switch on. I'm seeing no button to switch it on. And do you think it's a pleasant experience? It's not. Then I call HP customer care. That's one thing good about them. But anytime that I have called, I got a good response. I don't know about others, but that's my experience. I call them and say, friends, I have your laptop. Would you be kind enough to help me switch it on? Says Vajanti, open the laptop, sit facing your screen, and on your left hand near the charger uh, slot, there is one triangular small button. No, it is actually almost behind the screen. So that I got, now my laptop is on. Then what happened is, after 2 days, usually I have classes on Saturday, Sunday. So on Thursday or so, I do a sanity check that everything is functioning. I tried to do the sanity check after about 2-3 weeks. Everything was working well, and the camera would not switch on. I tried everything, software, install the drivers, uninstall the drivers, everything. Nothing worked. I called the HP people once again. As soon as I say camera, this is not switching on, right? How do you know? Okay, let us tell you. I think you must have accidentally switched it off. There is no button on the keyboard to switch it off, my friends. Yes, yes, there is a button. Near the USB drive, there is a pinhead size button, which if you really look for, you see. So this is something they already know that people see. Basically, we keep the laptop sideways. So accidentally it gets pressed, that particular button, which is a small pinhead size button. But it gets pressed and the camera gets switched off. That's what they do know because as soon as I said camera, they came up with this suggestion. And then they made me, okay, they on the Zoom call, they showed one more laptop and where to look for that tiny switch. And my camera got working. What's the point here? The point is user experience. Okay, so they could have done a better work. Other than that, the functionality of laptop is good. But on top of it, if somebody asks me, should I go for Spectre? I'd say think twice before you actually invest that much money. If they had actually asked users to participate or taken a survey, maybe their design would have been different. So, better solution here is user experience is a subject in itself. Train your team in that, and then also involve the users. Okay. In inaccurate estimation, how many of us are troubled by this? Or rather, let me change the question other way around. How many of us have never come across this? My team never estimated inaccurately. Raise your hands. Let me see if your teams always estimate accurately. They don't. Estimate is a judgment finally, so it usually won't be absolutely accurate. But when we are saying inaccurate estimate, the estimates are typically way beyond. It's not just marginally here and there. So usually when the team says we will be able to finish the story in one iteration, it's a small story, Vajanti. What the Indian Railways are asking us to do is show the list of trains that ply between station A and station B. We will definitely be able to finish that in 1 week. At the end of that 1 week out of the iteration, they realize that this story will actually take multiple iterations. I want to find out stations between Thane and Madgaon. Okay, so I say from station Thane to station Madgaon. Before that, I need to be logged in to be a legitimate user. So it involves checking that I'm logged in. It involves from station to station. That's fine. Does she want only those trains that start from Thane? Or does she want those trains that pass from Thane, may stop, may not stop? Does she want trains that stop at Thane? Is she ready to go to Kalyan or Panvel? All these questions need to be validated. And what does she want? Why is she looking at train? She wants to book a ticket. Which class? How to check availability? Availability. She just wants to check whether the tickets are available. That needs to be displayed. So all of these things are there, which my team had not given a thought to. Technical people, they just thought, okay, from A station to B station, what are the trains? That's what we have to develop. So in such cases, the estimate will be inaccurate. So what you have to do, you have to split the story into multiple stories. Reduce the story size by splitting stories. Use relative estimation with the entire team. That's one more thing you have to do. If the estimation is going wrong, perhaps you are getting into too finer granular estimates, which will always go wrong. So look at relative estimating. Okay, instead of saying this story is going to need 49.75 hours, think about these are 5 stories. This is the smallest story, which smallest story is fairly estimatable. So we think that this is going to take 8 hours, 1 day. Okay, I'll write 1 day. Then do relatively. Story number 2 is our base. Story number 1, how complex is it if you compare to story number 2? It is 4 times complex, is what we think. So let us say that it takes 4 days. We don't need to spend too much time. We will have some good rough idea. That is how, if you estimate, relatively estimate, you don't need to spend so much time. you compare the stories based on their complexities, complex natures, and the estimates will be improved. But before that, you have to take care that a complex story needs to be broken down into multiple smaller stories. You might want to check that we're using Scrum. Is it really suitable? Do we want to go for a scaling framework? Agile modeling. Which agile framework is suitable for you? Okay, unclear work assignments of work progress. Team doesn't know what work to take up, what work to deliver. So help the team learn that they self-manage the work. This is what typically happens when you are new to Agile. The team is really not comfortable picking up their own work. You will need to gradually train them. What helps is Kanban boards. Kanban boards, in fact, Kanban boards help anywhere and everywhere, not only on agile projects, they can help in personal life also. That gives a very clear idea about the current situation. So the teams can learn faster to pick up their own work. Help the team learn that they self manage the work. That's what you have to teach the team. Consider Kanban boards to see the flow of work and consider a daily stand up. Okay. BSU will help the team realize what is happening, what work they need to pick up or drop so that they can deliver together. Team struggles with obstacles. If you are a facilitator and you are reading this, you are pointing a finger squarely at yourself. This is something the facilitator did not do well. A servant leader can help clear the obstacles. If the team doesn't know their options, then who will tell the options? The talk about the options. I know that we have crossed 10 o'clock, but I want to complete a few lines and then take a break. So just give me some few more minutes. So facilitator should help the team clear the obstacles, should be more proactive actually. If the team doesn't know the options, they have considered a coach. And that's a fully well facilitator's role actually, coaching. Sometimes the team needs to escalate the stories the team or servant leader has not been able to remove. So, is my team able to do the work? If not, what I can do is what I have to see as a servant leader. Okay, work delays, overruns due to insufficiently refined product backlog items. If product backlog is not sufficiently refined, who needs to be there? PO needs to be there full time. PO needs to help the team. PO and the team workshop stories together, create definition of ready and considers they will think if the stories need splitting up. If there are lot of defects coming up, if there are a lot of defects coming up, that would mean that you need to improve your testing. Consider technical practices that work for the environment. Some possibilities are pair work. If continuously some defects are coming, this is one XP practice which is followed, which will give good results in software. What is the practice? Two people work together. One person is doing the work, maybe writing the code, let us say. The other person is observing. See, while I am writing the code, it is difficult for me to see the problems, bugs, or pitfalls. Somebody who's reading my code will be more easily able to do it. So the problems are nipped out in bud. We do that for about 30 minutes or so, then we swap the places. The other person writes the code and I watch it. So pairing is one good idea if the continuously you think that defects are coming up. Collective product ownership. You have to drill it into the team that the responsibility and ownership is yours. Once the team realizes it, it's not possible in first one or two projects, but gradually, yes. Once they realize it, they will start being more proactive, and that will reduce number of defects. And pervasive testing. Testing, it's also called monkey testing. Testing from all the angles, everything, trying to break it as much as possible. And a robust definition of them. This is one more reason why problems are coming. Acceptance criteria not well developed. Work is not completed. At the end of the iteration, team is saying we took up 4 stories, not completed. Team defines definition of done for stories, including the acceptance criteria. So also add the release criteria for projects. This is not what we are going to think about. Not for us, like not in the scope of examination. So let's not get into too much technical details or into agile. So develop a good DOD. Technical debt, poor quality work. In case of software, it is degraded code, but in any other area, it's poor quality work. So if it is poor quality work, the explanation given here is only for software, but you have to think about how you will improve the quality. Most probably document at right time. Agile doesn't say no documentation or zero documentation. So documenting at right time will definitely improve whatever is happening right now. For agile, writing the code well commented, well indented, refactoring the code, considering if we want to use any different framework in agile, testing better, automated analysis, automated testing, these will help. Too much product complexity. If the product is very complex, think about it. Do you really want to work on that? Let's say in a typical pharma company, as I was saying, like we are working on a machine which does almost every job automatically. The workers just need to measure the quantity of input material and feed it to the machine. Your job is to computerize that too. It should weigh the material automatically and it should feed itself automatically. So for you, any way to do this, human intervention is necessary because people have to check that the material which is kept there is within the shelf life constraints. So people are going to be there. So what they will do is, okay, let me look at this container. Shelf life is good. Let me give it to the machine. Then let me open the container lid so that the machine spoon can go in and get the material out. While it is weighing, it is spilling so much of it that I need to have a good container there where excess material doesn't get spilled. All of that, if you think, practically what's happening is the workers or operators are saying, ma'am, the work that you are developing takes us 2.5 minutes to complete this. Otherwise, we finish the whole business in 1 minute's time. What did we achieve? We did not achieve anything. So why work on such things where the work is more complex and the value it gives is not so very high? So think whether it's really required. Simplicity, the art of maximizing amount of work not done. Slow or no improvement in teamwork. The team, whatever results they are giving in iteration 1, similar results in iteration 2, similar results in iteration 3, they are not improving. So retrospective needs to be improved. You can help the team by to retrospect better in 1 or 2 retrospectives so that they will realize how to do it. B, conduct retrospectives often. So at the end, see, retrospective is a 3-hour event which happens on the last day. You can think of having one retrospective at first weekend, maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hour. 1 hour is also okay. What will they do? They will find out what did not go well. They can start improving there itself. They don't have to wait for the upcoming iteration. But you have to ensure that the time box is not exceeded. Otherwise, see, look at the team's calendar and they should have that 1.5 hour to spare. That's what you have to think about. Too much upfront work leading to rework. Oh. Perhaps this is something we will come to on Saturday. You have to remind me. We have to talk about certain more functionalities and certain more principles. Who will remind me? Vishali? Okay. False starts and wasted efforts. Team starts the work, realizes not going in right direction, stop, come back to square one, start again. That would mean that their efforts are wasted. Why this would happen? They did not realize in what way to go. Why this would happen? They were not clear about the stories. Why this would happen? The PO did not do a good job. So ask the PO to become integral part. And this one also, we will do them together. Perhaps I think there is one more table where we do both of these. So we'll not necessarily come back here, but we'll do it there because the topics will get covered by then. Rush and wait, plan to the team's capacity, and no more ask people to stop multitasking. What's happening here? Rush, wait, uneven flow of the work. Sometimes the team is delivering well, sometimes the team is not delivering well, then they are not completing the entire iteration well. Why is it happening? So, if the team is not able to deliver in some iterations, most probably the team is taking up more work than they can do in those iterations. So check what they are doing. Are they taking the work as per their capacity or they are taking excess work? Encourage them to take work only up to their capacity. Plan to the team's capacity and not more. Ask people to stop multitasking. This might reduce the efficiency. Team members are multitasking, their efficiency is reduced almost by 40%. So the final delivery gets impacted. Ask the team to work in pairs, anything to improve quality testing, discussing impossible stakeholder demands. It has got nothing to do with agile, nothing to do with waterfall. It has got something to do with human nature. And almost all of us must have met somebody who has impossible demands. What do? You use your interpersonal skills. That's the only thing that you can do here. Unexpected or okay, this is something that we are going to talk at the end of this chapter. Kanban, it is related to Kanban boards and siloed teams we have already talked about. So what we are going to do is we are going to take a break here. It's 10:12, so we will take a 20 minutes break. I can already see some restlessness here. So let me pause the record. So welcome friends, and let's start on the next part. Measurements in agile projects. We have actually seen how agile projects are measured only at elementary level. Only working software, something which is 100% completed, gets measured. Transitioning to agile means using different measurements. Using agile means looking at new metrics that matter to team and to management. These metrics matter because they focus on customer value. The problem with predictive measurements is that they often do not reflect reality. It often happens that a project status light is green up and green up until 1 month before the release date. This is sometimes referred to as a watermelon project. Oftentimes, project status lights turn red with seemingly no warnings because there is no empirical data about the project until 1 month before the release date. Okay, I don't really agree 100%, but that's fine. We'll talk about this. In addition to quantitative measures, the team can consider collecting qualitative measures. Some of these qualitative measures focus on practices the team had chosen and assess how well the team uses those practices. For example, business satisfaction with delivered features, the moral of the team. Okay, what this whole thing means? Agile, it actually means agile teams measure results. Agile teams do not measure uh, unless it is completely delivered. So, what happens typically? Okay, let us talk about one case. Just looking for a space to scribble. Here, as I was talking to you about that sales going down in my pharma company, what happened there was uh, the sales head said, I'm I'm talking about 2008-9, okay? I'm not talking about the current period. So that is the time mobile applications were a rarity. So what happened was my senior or the sales head said, my team needs some help in sales. What's happening is they don't understand what are the latest stocks at all the five godowns that we have across the country. They want to know what are the stocks. They want to know what are the stocks in the nearest godown. They want to know the shelf life of those stocks. They want to know what is the plan, production plan, so that they will know what's coming up, what stocks will be coming up in next week or so. Accordingly, they can plan their sales. But they don't get this data. If they can get this data, our sales can improve. He was right there. So now let us imagine, having discussed this, he and the CEO and me sat together and thought that we will develop a full-fledged sales system where people get all the information that they need on sales, and we will try to deploy that on the mobile phone so that people, when they're out on the fields, they can see all the details that are necessary. So now what happens is, my CEO asked me, Vajanti, everything that the sales head is asking is something that he needs. That's good. But can you do it with your team for us? So I said, of course I can do. It will take something like 6 months. Okay. To complete the whole thing, it will take completely, it will take something like 6 months. Let us just assume that my CEO said yes. Then what would happen? At the end of, let us say, 1 month, I'd measure the total progress of the work. So I can see that we have done something like 17% work already. So if at all, I'm slightly ahead of the schedule, my seniors are happy. At the end of 3 months, halfway through, I should have completed 50% work. Here, what I'm saying is I have completed 48% work. Now, that's not a big difference, right? 48 and 50. So, again, my seniors are happy. They're saying the progress is good. You are not overspending because hardly any additional resources you have. So, cost side of it will not bother here right now. We'll only measure on time scale to understand what's the difference. Then going forward a little way after, let's say 1 month after halfway through, about 4 months. Again, overall work, there are so many reports, so many reports and figures that the sales team wants. The overall work, if I see right now, we are somewhere about, let's say, 60%. Again, overall, it looks good. At the end of fifth month, what happens is my work completed is about 65%. This is where my seniors start worrying. Somewhere here, we realize that tying up everything is going to take some more time, say maybe about 1 month more. So if I have to finish that on time or a little earlier, I'm going to need more resources. It's going to mean more cost, it's going to mean more timeline. And on top of it, all of us were involved in it. We did not get a good idea till almost the project was over. We were thinking that we are going on well because what we measured was total work. Let's say there were 100 reports. So 100 work is there. We have completed 48 reports, so 48%. What we perhaps failed to realize is whatever 52 reports are not completed, they are much more complex than what we have completed. How can we measure percentage in so simple forms? And again, whatever 48% work I had completed, my sales team was not able to use it anyway. So, what's the point in saying 48% work was completed? But we went ahead and till almost everything ended, we were thinking that we are going to deliver well on time and the sales team is going to be happy. So, it was considered to be a green project, green light, that is. And very near to the project closure, we realized quality issues, we realized time delay, we realized cost issues, and this is where we realized that we are not going to deliver on time, we are not going to deliver within budget, we are not going to deliver the quality that we promised. So what's happening? My project is now turning red actually, not good in any of these zones. So it's like outside it was thought to be green and inside it is red. That's why such projects are called watermelon projects. Okay. So if this project was done how it was actually done in Agile. So my self head says right now, Vajanti, mobile was something of a new concept. He said, I can give mobiles to the entire team. But can you help? So what we thought is, let us say only A items of the finished goods, they will be able to see the total quantity of stock available in A items. Okay. This is something I said I can give with my team in 2 weeks' time. He had asked many things, but this is something I said we can give in 2 weeks' time. Then he said it would have been good if I also got location wide stock. That was already there. Okay, when we defined this, it was already there, but I'm just describing it once again. Okay, these two things I said we can give in 2 weeks' time. The sales head was very happy. Really, I never thought in 2 weeks' time my team can start giving you results if they get these two things. Why do we have to wait till the end? Let us start with this. I'll tell you, and as we go, I will go on adding more features. The team started using it and then they realized that they are better off than what they were. Otherwise, from customers' place, they needed to call the go down. Sometimes the phone would not go through. Sometimes the people would not have information readily available. So it would be the customer would say, don't waste my time. Come when you have all the information. All that's getting avoided. They have the figures at their fingertips. So they were happy. They said, can you do one more thing? Now they realize they're saying, can you do one more thing? We would also like to have shelf life. Said, asked my team, said, okay, we can do it in 2 weeks' time. So some more features they asked, new features they asked. They said that is what will really help them sell. Said, okay, we can do it, no problem. You don't have to tell us upfront everything, all the requirements. As and when you get, you can tell us. We will do it for you. The team was happy. My team could very clearly say that we have delivered value for the team by delivering these two reports. They're already able to use it. On the scale of 1 to 10, myself had said, if you give us quantities, that is that value that we will get is 10 here. That's it is that bad. If you tell us go down by stock, it's 9.5 is the value that we get. So we are delivering very high value already, which the customer can use. We are not uh, calculating, computing the work in terms of total percentage or earned value. Only whatever is completely delivered or deliverable, that is what we are counting. So that's why agile measurements make more sense, because that's something that a customer can actually use. Otherwise, what's the point in saying 65% work is done and customer says we cannot use it? So that is where agile measurements would score. Okay. How do agile measurements actually happen? I'm going to talk about theory, then we will talk about how it happens in practice. Theory, actually, if you stick to theory, it's a good theory. There are many stories in the, let's say, product backlog. There are many stories. My team has decided to take up these 3 stories or 4 stories, whatever. They want to, before they actually decide, finalize that this is the work that we are going to take up, they have to understand how complex this work is. Will we be able to do this work in one iteration or not? That's what they have to decide. So what do they do for that is they find out, hey, I'm
I believe
getting
we
a,
lost you. I don't know if
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I got that error message that internet connection was unstable for a few seconds. Are you here with me now? Hello? Am I audible?
You are
Yes,
audible, ma'am.
yes.
Okay. So out of these the 4 stories, they want to check whether they can do it in one iteration or not. What they have to do is they have to find out one story. If it is not there in these stories, they can take one additional story only for judging this. They may not finish or start work on that story, but they have to find out one story which they can finish together in one day's time. Finish end to end, including testing and everything. So let us say this is the story which is not there in the current iteration plan, but this is the story that they judge that we can, all of us together, can complete this story in one single day's time, end to end, starting to testing. Then they'll say, okay, let us have a look at these 4 stories, and from our understanding, let us compare the two sets. This story, let us compare it with the work that we are planning to take. So the story that they are able to finish in one day's time is technically called a single story point. Ideally, this is how story point is calculated. I know many or most of the Scrum organizations will say 1 hour is one story point. That's not the correct way of doing it. Okay, so this is one story point is what they will decide. Then they will come to this tentative iteration planning backlog that they have. So this topmost story, how complex it is when you compare to story point. Say 3 times. So then this story is worth 3 story points. Second story is worth, let's say, 4 story points. Next story is worth, let's say, 8 story points. So how much it is? 15 story points. Last one is, let's just say, 10 story points. So altogether, in this particular iteration, we are taking work worth of 25 story points. That is what they will decide. So that is how they plan the work. When they start working, usually teams would not want to measure in between, but especially for complex products or when teams are new or when teams just want to judge if their judgment is good or not. They would want to check how they are going against the plan. So, for judging that, they will use the graphs that are called burn down charts or burn up charts. One of them. They are just mirror images. So, what is the burn down chart? There's a team that has decided to complete 35 story points in one iteration. Oh, let me just see. Okay, good. Um, on day zero, just before they start the work, how much work is balanced? All the 35 story points will be balanced. They have not started the work. Ideally, at the end of day 10, how much work should be balanced? Ideally, there should be 0 story points that are balanced. So the line, this dotted line, is ideal burn down line. Ideally, this is how the thing should go. What they are saying is, ideally, at the end of day 4, there should be, say, 21 or 22 stories remaining. That is how ideally you have to go. Practically, what's happening, especially when the progress is not good, the teams will want to check what's happening. Look at this, what's happening. At the end of day 1, we were supposed to have 32 stories balanced. Okay, like here, it's 32. What's actually happening? There are 34 stories balanced. At the end of day 2, you can see the gap is increasing. Ideally, it should have been 25 stories balanced. Practically, what has happened is there are 32 story points balanced. So, gap is increasing. At the end of day 3, the gap has increased further. Between day 3 and day 4, do you realize no work plotted here? Why? The team gets credit only for completed work. So it's possible that end-to-end completion did not happen for any story between day or any work between day 3 and day 4. It's possible. Okay. So at the end, so that actually what has happened? The gap has increased. But if you look at day 5, you will realize, look at the slope. So the team has actually worked better and delivered more. Gap is still a little more, but they are working better here. So some problems perhaps got resolved between day 3 and day 4, or they could take the work ahead. Maybe the resources were working well, maybe they got good hardware training, whatever it is. Between day 5 to day 6, day 6 to day 7, no progress. So big gap now. At the end of day 7, we should ideally have been left with something like 12 stories. Look at this. We are for our, not 12 stories, 12 story points, I'm sorry. Here what's happening is, with the work that we have finished, we have 25 story points balance. Now what do? I think we go ahead. And day 8, day 9, day 10, you realize that they are really working faster and closing the gap. At the end of it, the gap is only 5 story points. So that means some part of a story was not completed. That means some part of the work will go back to the product backlog. See, the team cannot 100% judge, like, okay, 100% delivery. If that is happening consistently, most probably your team is taking work less than what they can do. That's not necessarily bad. That's psychological. Okay, we will not take risks. Typically, risk averse people will take such decision. Jitna hota hai utna hi. Okay, let us commit a little less, but let us complete whatever we have committed. If that is the mindset of the team, they will take a little less work. As a facilitator, you might want to encourage them. It's okay if some part of the work is not done. You will do it in the next iteration. What's the big deal? That's not something which is saying you are inefficient. If you explain that to team, if the team understands, they will change. Okay, so this is what is the whole story. You use burn down charts to understand how much work is balanced. On the other hand, the other graph is exactly other way around. On day 0, no work is completed. On day 10, ideally, all the 35 story points should be completed. So this is ideal burn up chart. And it's the same story, right? At the end of day 1, the team has finished so many story points. At the end of day 2, the gap is this much. At the end of day 3, the gap has increased. Day 3 and 4, no work done. Day 4 and 5, the slope is good, they are working well. 5 to 6 and 6 to 7, again no work done. And at the end of day 10, they have completed 30 story points. So they have done a fairly good work. So which chart you should be using, burn down or burn up? Anything that your team is comfortable with. Some teams would prefer to understand how much work is left out so that we can focus on that. Some teams will like to understand how much work we have completed so that it gives us a good feeling that, yeah, we can do that work and we will be able to finish. So it depends on what you are comfortable with. You can use either burn down chart or the burn up chart. Yes, Abhijit?
Yes, I had a doubt that while plotting this for a typical sprint, if 5 team members, 3 developers and 2 testers, they had
Sorry,
this story point.
no, Abhijit, you have to come again. While plotting this,
While this is for one sprint, like 14 days or 10 days.
one sprint, you can say, one iteration.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, one sprint. So, is it fair to measure it like this, like day one? Because day one they just started, and then in the end, obviously they will work quickly, and that.
It's not completing the number of stories, it's completing story points. So, some amount of work in given story. It could be getting the tables ready. So, yes, you have to, when you want to measure, you will measure every day.
Okay. Or is
It-
this burn down and burn up chart? Both the charts are for backlog, product backlog. Like in every sprint, how this sprint perform, or is it inside one sprint how to perform?
okay. So, this is typically what the managements are used to. Like, okay, how much work was committed and how much work is completed. If that is what the management wants to see, they can definitely use either burn up or burn down. That's what you were saying, right? Like for management to check how much work is completed.
No,
Yeah,
I mean
but that's not
management to check
encouraged in
backlog.
Agile.
Yeah, because this is
Management checking,
unsure.
control. Give me a second. Management checking and controlling. That term controlling, ensuring, pushing your team. That's not something which is Agile. So it is not encouraged. That's it. Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah, so is this more applicable for like group of sprints together? How we have performed over 1 year, like that, or is it inside one sprint? How have we performed?
Basically, in Agile, there is no point comparing across. If you are saying that two teams or three teams, team A, team B, team C, comparing their velocities, their work is a big no. You don't know. See, you're seeing story points decided by the team. You don't know what is the story point of A, what is the story point of B. They are not comparable. If they are not comparable, why are you comparing the work done by the teams? That's also not comparable. The resources are different, the work is different. You cannot compare. Oh, across the iterations also, some iterations the team might be doing some difficult work, they might have better resources, those resources are not available on upcoming iterations, so they get fresher resources. Not comparable. So comparing across the iterations or comparing across the teams, their velocities, is not supposed to be done. It's not a good idea.
And logically, towards the end of the this graph, as you can see, quickly it is completing. And
Yeah, yeah,
initially
yeah.
everything will be slow.
Basically, what happens is that is how the work actually happens.
Correct.
See, the team is getting the work ready, but the final, let's say, integration is required. So for integration, two stories need or two things need to be ready, and then all the five stories or whatever number of stories that they have, let's say 10 story points, integration happens here. So quickly it shows up. And on the other hand, this is where the team is working, but there is no result to show. Completed work is not there. That's why this is a flat, and where the team does the work, it suddenly shoots up.
Correct. So is that flat line plateau is a cause of what you can say pressure? Like manager will say or whomsoever it is, Scrum Master will say, "Arey boss, what are you doing? It is flat
Why,
for
why,
last two
why,
weeks or
why,
days."
why? Why, Abhijit? It's not
Data is
about
showing that
what
way.
are you doing. It's about that something is not completed yet. It will get completed the next day. There are so many loose ends to be tied. It doesn't mean that the team is not working. It just means that the work, say, this much work needs to be is totally completed. You cannot complete all the work in, say, 8 hours. Let's say you take 16 hours to complete this much work. At the end of 8 hours, this much half work you have completed, but you are not showing half story points. So it looks like you have not completed any work. You are doing the work, on day two, when the entire work gets completed, you plot it there. So suddenly the work is shown. Till then, the work cannot be displayed because agile measures only completion. Doesn't measure work in progress. WIP, work which is happening, is a cost. It's not completed work. So it doesn't get measured. Are you with me, Abhijit?
Yes.
It's a difficult concept to digest, but yes, that's what happens. What is that? Gopal, I'll come to your question after Kedar. Kedar?
Yeah, so I would start with the same statement that agile measures completion. So the work that is not done, in case I have a story that is partially completed, what is the best practice to split that story and mark like 80% complete, or just move the entire story to
Move
backlog?
the best practice
Oh,
is move the entire
move that, right?
story back. So sometimes what can happen, the story is a little too big, and half part of the story is actually usable by the customer. In that case, typically what people do is half completion is percentage wise, it is allocated, not a pure agile practice. Pure agile practice, if you see, if the entire story is not completed, entire story goes back to the product backlog, and the team will take a call if they are taking up in the immediate upcoming iteration, or they are waiting because some new stories are there, important stories are
So in this case, how is the individual resource level tracking them, that, how much work was committed versus delivered?
there. That is the question I was looking for. Individual work tracking is not done.
Not done, right? Okay.
See,
Okay.
but
So
like
it's
it
only
is
team
team,
level
it is
velocity.
team, only team
Okay.
level, what the team
Okay.
can.
Thank you.
See, if individual work tracking is done, and you remember some time back, I was saying that I have a tester who might idle for 2 days.
Right.
Then
Right.
how his work can be tracked? It's not by choice he's not working. It's just because I
Right.
want him to be there, he's there. So it's not fair if I track individual work, right?
Right. Right.
So that's why we have to track teamwork. Okay.
And this is the problem that usually why I call some of the setups hybrid, because a lot of times upper management needs data in a
that's
very
what I
traditional
told
format.
Abhijit also. If management needs, you have to give this report, but not pure agile. Managements want, like, okay, who's working, who's not working. That's not how we think in agile. But
Right.
typically, top people take a lot of time to change. So
Okay.
yes,
Thank you.
I mean you have to strike a balance finally, practically speaking. I mean, I am coming to your question after I answer Gopal's question. I am not checked Gopal's question. The graph may stay flat if the works are not broken down to smaller deliverable stories. Perhaps, Gopal, you are trying to say that a complex story is taken up by the team and they cannot complete the whole story, and that's why the graph, if, see, basically it is about story points, it's not about the entire story. So if the story point happens to be an entire one story, what's one story point? One story that they can complete in days time. So there is, let us just say that there is one story which they think that they can complete in one day, and they have started working on that story on day 3, and they, at the end of day 4, they cannot finish it. So this will still show flat, and somewhere on day 4 they will definitely finish it. Only small portion is remaining. They will also finish some more additional work. So perhaps that is what Gopal is referring to. Can
Yeah,
we
I was just saying it when Abhijit asked this question in terms of
oh.
how, yeah, it's just a common mention question. In terms of how it's flat and how it's actually going down quickly at the end of
Yes.
this,
So some work
because
which
you
is
measure
not.
complete, yeah, because team might actually estimate something much bigger. They have a 5-story pointer, which actually completes up by the end of the sprint, and the slope really goes down pretty quickly.
Yeah,
So
I mean, yes, almost like 45 or 50 degrees, it'll go up because towards the end, the things suddenly, and especially if they have considered integration as a part of their work, it will happen. Multiple stories coming together and unifying this will happen. Yeah,
So
thank you.
it's very difficult to actually stay close to the dotted line, unless
That's
you've
true.
really broken down the stories into smaller
That's true.
pieces.
So I personally don't see any relevance with burn up and burn down. It is just because because we are transforming from traditional or predictive to agile, we are used to seeing some reports of plan versus actual. This is one report. But otherwise, I really don't think it is necessary. Okay, so what's Vinay's question? Can we call story points as steps of a process in waterfall? No, Vinay. Story point is relative estimation actually. Take the simplest story that the team will be able to complete in one day. So you understand how much effort is involved in that particular piece of work, and then estimate the relate all the remaining work, the remaining stories in relation to that smallest story. Story points ideally are done the way I just explained. What I have seen is many people would say work completed by the entire team in 1 hour. Let us call that one story point, or entire team in, let's say, 1 day's time, completed work. That can be taken as one story point. Or 1 hour is equal to one story point is also something that I have heard. Then why do you have to have a story point at all? You can simply talk in terms of hours. Okay. This effort is measurable, yes. So if you have one story point you have found out, so you know how much work you are going to do, how much work your team is able to do in one day. So if they are saying that a particular story is 5 story points, what you can realize is this is the work. Or let's say I have 5 people, my team is saying this is a particular story. Let's say, okay, let us scribble here. This is a story my team is saying they will be able to complete in 1 day's time. So how many man hours I'm talking about? I have a 5 people team, they're working for 8 hours. So, in other words, I'm actually saying this is the story which is worth 40 hours, 40 man hours. Equivalent, right? Now they talk about one more story, which is complex story. They say this, the new story is 5 story points. What they are trying to tell me is all of us together, 5 people together, will be able to complete this story in 5 working days. Only one single story if we are working on, we will be able to complete the story in 5 working days. In other words, they are saying this whole story is 40 into 5, 200 work hours, 200 man hours. So it's perfectly measurable. Okay. So burn up and burn down. Now, okay, before I come to Kanban, I just wanted to talk about something small, but this is not what we are going to discuss. It's not a part of PMP examination. Those of you who have taken PMI ACP examination or want to take up, these are the charts for them. It's a cumulative feature diagram, more popularly known as CFD, and this is a feature chart.
Friends, this is Satish Kamath from Effective Project Management Academy. Many people want to do PMP trainings and they would like to know same questions, different people, and instead of every individual calling again and again on different days, what we have done is we conduct 1 hour introductory session for knowing what we cover in PMP. So in this, please join these 1 hour sessions and you will come to know what is PMP, what is expected while studying PMP, or what are the requirements from PMI side, how to apply for PMP, and all this you will know in real time, because this is a real time 1 hour session for letting you know what is PMP, how to study, what benefits are there from PMP, how you will gain from PMP, how much does it cost for you, and how much time you need to spend for this. And also, of course, I will be telling you some simple tips for passing PMP. So this is what is the intention of this 1 hour session. Please join today on the following, call us on the following number.